Looking back, I wouldn't say that my childhood and upbringing were anything special. To me, I was a normal kid, except for the fact that my dad passed away when I was 8 years old. One side effect of losing my father, and probably the most important one to my young mind, was that it made me different than the other kids. Kids my age didn't know how to react around me anymore. Death is not an easy concept, especially for third graders. My father's passing also took my family to a single-income household and not a lucrative one. I wasn't poor, but luxuries were definitely not plentiful. Looking back, this led me to really never feel like I belonged. But the one place, though, that I found solace was education. I always really enjoyed school. Gaining knowledge gave me a sense of power. I wasn't always an intelligent child, but I never really had a direction for my intellect until I got to high school. History was always interesting to me, but when I got to my senior year, it became my passion. I had history 7th period, last period of the day, and I remember being the only student that actually stayed awake in class. My teacher, Mr. Tyrrell, made it come alive for me, and I had found the beginning of what Green would call my niche. I entered college upon graduation and started on the path to be a teacher. I quickly realized it was history that I loved, not necessarily teaching, though ironically, this will come full circle. Over the next 9 years, I immersed myself in history classes. I read thousands of pages and I wrote what felt like just as many. I gained a bachelor's degree in history, took a year off, and then I went back and received a master's. My niche was European history, and I furthered that by aiming to master discourse analysis as a means of studying the relationship between the first and the third world. I continually developed my niche. In Grimm's terms, I went the Ramchandran route. I took what I loved, European history, and I looked for ways to specialize it even more. Throughout my collegiate journey, I struggled with what exactly I was going to do with my education, though, so I looked back at my origins. What led me to history was a good teacher. According to Green, your interest must transcend the field itself and border on the religious, and that was history for me. So I knew I wanted to share that. So I went back to the original plan. I landed my dream job in the summer of 2016. I became an adjunct history professor. I had made it, or so I thought. There was an issue, though. Throughout the past decade of college, I had developed an extremely unhealthy relationship with alcohol. What started out as something you did just as a college student had blossomed into a full-blown addiction. So here I was in what was supposed to be my dream career, an alcoholic. But I managed that way for about 3.5 years. But as any former addict will tell you, there comes a point where it all blows up in your face. I'll spare you the details, but I ended up moving back in with my mom at 29 years old to try and get my life together. Well, long story short, I didn't. I kept drinking, I got jobs, I lost jobs, all while blaming everyone and everything else. But then I got pregnant. I gave birth to my daughter in the January of 2022. The second I held her, I had found my purpose. That 7-pound, 12-ounce little girl became my new reason, the beginning of my turning point. Over the course of the next few months, I started to change. It wasn't instant, but by August of that year, I said goodbye to alcohol for good. So here I am as the making of this video, just shy of 16 months sober and ready to master my life. Professionally, I never had a better high than standing in front of a classroom, and that is where I want to get back to, but better. And I have to let go of the past. Just as Green states, in order to achieve your life's tasks, you do not hold on to the past views of doing things because that will ensure that you will fall behind and suffer for it. And I don't want to follow what Green would call a false path. My life's task is to help educate on history and share my passion. Choosing something else for a larger paycheck will not fulfill me the way that I know that teaching history will. My life's task really hinges, though, on the last of the 5 strategies mentioned by Green. It is literally a matter of life and death. Going back to my old ways, staying where I was in those habits will literally kill me. I have found my way back thanks to my turning point, the birth of my daughter. Green states, though, that the way back requires a sacrifice, and for me, that was giving up alcohol. He also states that the road to mastery requires patience. It took me 10 years to become a full-blown addict and deviate off my course. It's going to take me some time to get back. But ultimately, I know focusing on my life's task will keep me alive. Over the next 3 weeks, one of my major goals is just to get back into the groove of being a student. I was a different person last time I was one, and life has changed drastically. I have a lot more on my plate this time around. Time management is going to be key, and just the ability to get my assignments done in a timely manner where I'm not overwhelmed will be the true test. My other goal is to use this time to just immerse myself in the new technology. While we used technology last time I was a student, it was nothing like it is now, and I'm not afraid to admit that I'm a little bit behind the times. So over the next 3 weeks, I just want to try to soak up as much knowledge as possible on this new technological approach to learning.